I see strife all around me, no one taking the blame. Everyone cursing someone else's name. But that don't help me in my journey. Gambling with the future.
Now, the next thing is, what mechanism is used to take money from your taxes and send it abroad? What legal grounds do they have for doing it? Generally it says foreign aid. No, not quite right. It's not in this context. Not in this context. What they do is they say there are regulations published by the government that says they've got to have these reserves. They call them reserves, but in fact they're investments. Okay. Now there's a hierarchy of law. At the top there's the common law, which can't be argued, like murder is out of order. There's no act of parliament that says you mustn't murder people. You just mustn't. Okay? And then there's acts of parliament. There's acts of parliament. And acts of parliament are debated by the Lords, debated by the Commons, and then give royal assent, and then they're passed, don't they? Regulations are made under authority of an act of parliament. Okay? But a regulation doesn't beat an act of parliament. Okay? So, this was tested in the courts about 18 months ago. It's in South Wales. Two ladies have got children who reached the age of 3 and are due to go to nursery school. Because of the cuts in the budget, okay, because of the cuts in the budget, these nursery places weren't available. And two ladies with nice Welsh names, Angela was one of them, go to the Court of Queen's Bench sitting at Swansea. And there's a judgment from the Court of Queen's Bench sitting at Swansea that says a council mustn't neglect its statutory obligations. Okay? Which is taking the obvious, really, isn't it? Okay? If there's an act of parliament that says you send children to school at age 3, you've got to do it. But they didn't do it because of the alleged cuts. And they were roundly criticised by the judges, and as much as judges, you know, they're gentlemen, aren't they? Do it politely, but they were really slapped down. What happened was the officials had misled the councillors about their statutory responsibility. The officials said, we haven't got enough money in the budget, so you can't have these school places. And the judge said, nonsense, you've got to cough up. So the way we can hold these prices to account, one is legal and the other is political. The legal one is, let's imagine you've got school places that aren't being filled because there are cuts. Okay, that's a breach of a statutory obligation. And the Welsh judgment, which is in the article on the BCG website, explains that that's not on. And the other is political. Remember I spoke about my nice Welsh councillor with a red nose, looks like a farmer. He wrote in the document, our only source for funding is central government grant and council tax, and he didn't mention the rest. Yeah, somebody's made a political decision not to fund the 20 million shortage, haven't they? So there's a political price to pay as well, and that can be paid in the voting booth. And so either way we got them, haven't we? Either councillors knew about it and they're ethical, or they didn't know about it and they're inethical as well. But either way they should sort it out. Okay, so that's the section 151 officer. And it all comes about because, well, a friend of mine, Peter Kroll, sent me an email about it. Yeah. The district auditor the question is, where does the district auditor sit? He prepares the reports, but he's got a lower level authority than the chief financial officer. Yes, that's right, yeah. 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 Okay, so the lady at the front saying that in her case where she claimed that fraud, the district auditor investigated it. I say this supersedes it. Chief Financial Officer, section 151.
John?
Yeah.
The 151 officer is a fiduciary position, isn't it?
It is.
So can we appoint him as our fiduciary?
He's got it already, because I mentioned in the article there's a judgment referring to treasurers, because he's quite old, but the 151 officer is the descendant of the treasurers.
So he's got it already. You have to appoint him.
The question is, do we have to appoint him? He's got it already, I'd say. Okay. Because of the Winton judgment, he's got obligation already, not just to the councillors, but to the inhabitants.
Thank you.
There we go. Right, so here's the strategy, and this is in the article. You might think I'm the world's greatest bullshitter, so you need to check. Okay? So the first thing you do is obtain a statement of accounts if you're council. Then obtain the budget, two different things, aren't they? Okay? They're hiding in plain sight.
Who's it best to go to?
On the web first.
Somerset County Council or Mendon District Council?
I don't know what your local arrangements are.
Mendon District Council is run by reserve.
Do they? Okay. Gentlemen at the front saying there's one council, Mendon District Council. But I say everyone. I say everyone. Yeah. Yeah. Well, Mendon saying that they get sacked if they don't do it. Well, quite right too. Some of these slides are a bit garbled. Yeah.
Mendon District Council is run by Capita.
Oh, gentlemen at the front saying Mendon District Council run by Capita. So. And Somerset by Southwest One, okay. Which is IBM. Oh, there we go. Yeah, and Sodexo own them. Yeah, they own the prisons. Okay, see what a tangled web we've got, okay? When I say fascist, it's a technical term, isn't it? It means where the state is influenced and passed legislation by big business. Yeah, and that's what's happened. Yeah, they've created a web stuff. We're going to have to reverse all this, aren't we? Yeah. So obtain the statutory council, look at the obtain the budget. If there's and then you look for unused reserves. I say unused reserves are set by regulation. Your first step is to look to see whether there are any cuts that affect schools. Now, where I live, for example, there's a senior school that's been closed, and the hidden agenda is the land's wanted for building, and the children are being bused 20 miles away to the next town. Okay? You could argue that's in breach of the Act of Parliament that says education has got to be provided. It does say within a reasonable distance, doesn't it? Okay? So the first concept is they're breaching a statute and they shouldn't. And the second one is because the council's got 302 million reserve and council tax take is only 60. Why do they bother to collect council tax at all? Or how do they justify collecting council tax at all? Okay? Some of these slides have got a bit jumped, I'm afraid, so I did them on a Windows machine. If the thing cuts contrary to statutory obligations, so it should be brought to the attention of the Section 151 officer, because it's his responsibility to represent the interests of taxpayers. Of course, you put him on the spot. You put him on the spot, because we can see him now. The other side, the other side of favours now, because we can see them, can't we? You know what that means to a wait person. Okay? And as I say, this could be the tool that we're looking for to transfer what we know from the awake to the merely greedy. Okay? And then they'll wake up. And his reports of council should result in the cuts being corrected, at the very least, shouldn't it? Okay, and if you've been overcharged, if you think your council tax has been overcharged, well, why shouldn't you have a cut? Individuals who be adversely affected by maladministration may well obtain restitution as a crime above. That's section 92. Yeah.
Can I ask, where does this responsibility extend to when you've got PwC and all the big private counties going into the councils and auditing their accounts?
The question is, outside bodies going to the council and auditor. I would say that 1972 is a primary statute, and it says you'll have a 151 officer that's responsible. So he's on top of it, and he's protected by being difficult to sack. Okay. I'm trying to get the syllabus for their training because the worldwide conspiracy to take money out of local taxation and send it to Iceland is probably his job. But I'm not absolutely sure about that. What I do know is what I just told you. He's got a duty to the people as well, not just the council. Here we are. This is Somerset when it has come out. I made the assumption we were in North Somerset. You want to see this, don't you? Statement of accounts, yeah. Not the budget, the statement of accounts, different thing. This is what the 151 officer is saying. We made these accounts for public inspection so that people. This is a legal requirement. The mine department will answer questions from anyone with an interest at any time. That's you, isn't it? These accounts have been approved by Audit Committee on the 20th of September 2014. Kevin Nacy, there we go. He appears to be your 151 officer. Reserves. The authority sets aside specific amounts in reserves for future policy purposes or to cover contingencies. Reserves are created where appropriate amounts from as the general fund. And those are regulations, so they've got regulations which say you take money out and put it in reserves.
These future policy potentials be in control of the people.
The gentleman saying this should be in control of the people, I agree, yes, yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that's what
Not-
perhaps they may be saying now.
Some of the reserves are justified, for example, something you had flooding, didn't you? Yeah, so Powys, I said the figure of 302 million, 60 million is for reserves for various things, and 240 is just, can't be justified, it's gone abroad. So yeah, nothing wrong with having local reserves for contingencies, but unusable reserves are the problem. But, gentleman says that the floods could have been prevented by spending 4 million on dredging. So you want to see how much money the council's got, don't you? There you go.
It was in the papers in about 1540 about the Rhine round there flooding.
Yes,
So
yeah.
we can't say that it was unknown to the council.
Yeah, that's right. Gentleman's saying it's not unexpected that you get flooding in Somerset, is it? Okay. There we go. So North Somerset, unusual reserves 88,325,000, total reserves 144. Okay, how much are the cuts in North Somerset? Do you know? I couldn't find that out. Yeah? It's a lot of money there. Yeah, on average, the council seems to have 4 to 5 years worth of council tax stashed abroad in investments. There we go. James says they lost 20 million in Iceland. That's a drop in the bucket. Well, it's a quarter of that, isn't it?
And they called around, clawed back 10 million.
Okay.
That was some sense.
Right, so let's cheer you up, isn't it? Okay. One of the things I suggest is that you go and infiltrate other protest groups. Okay? Because there's people paying about the cuts, aren't they? And that sort of thing. So why reinvent the wheel? All you've got to do is go to a meeting like this and say, unusual reserves, did you know? Okay? After you checked out my work, so I might be bullshitting. And that's it. So any questions about that?
Was there somewhere where it says that unusable reserves can't be used?
They're set by regulation. Because what I've done is I've trawled through a number of... The question was, where does it say unusual reserves can't be used? It goes like this. Most councils have an unusual reserve category in their general financial account, and they don't tell you what it is. The Rhondda does. And of course, the Rhonda's the one where the two ladies send their children to school. And in the Rhondda it says, these are monies set aside by regulation. And you remember I said that regulations are lesser form of law. Okay, so a regulation doesn't meet a statutory requirement to send children to school, and it doesn't meet the political decision not to use them for eliminating council tax altogether. So does that answer your question?
Not really.
Go on.
So if it says unusable in the documentation,
Yeah.
is there somewhere else where in their own documentation it backs up that it can't be used and that's why?
All it says these are set by regulation, and there's a whole interlocking mass of regulations covering this topic. Okay, and I haven't gone into detail because this legal principle of regulations are lesser form of law than statute. Yeah, that's the argument. So there we are. In time, we've had a few people in the office, haven't we, Brian, who are accountants, and they say, "Well, didn't everybody know that?" Because we didn't, did we? But they're still things.
John, are there rules, regulations, are they allowed to invest in, take our money that we pay them and invest?
Well, I would say no. The history of taxation is this. It goes back to the English Civil War period, okay? And it goes like this. The common law, the king could tax things but not income. So that's why you had tax on brandy and tax on windows and tax on fireplaces. You remember that? So in the English Civil War period, we experimented with two forms of dictatorship. Well, they're the same actually. The Stuart kings wanted divine right of kings, so they shut Parliament and taxed directly. Because the common law rule is Parliament is the intermediary whereby we the people agree what we're going to be taxed, Okay? In 1627 there's a thing called the Petition of Right, which was thought to have settled that. It's a forerunner of the Bill of Rights, and it said nobody can be taxed except by consent of Parliament. Of course, what the Stuart kings is they shut Parliament, pay soldiers to be mercenaries, and then extort taxes directly. You have the Civil War. Charles I gets his head cut off. The Puritans come into power, and what do they do? The same thing. Okay, there we are. shut Parliament, have the new model army, press the people and so on. And eventually people rise up and there's the Restoration. The principle that Parliament settles taxes was upheld until 1911. Well, what happened in 1911? Who's heard of the Parliament Act 1911? Yeah, a lot of people heard of it, but do you know what it means? Who knows who's the Speaker of the House of Commons? Is he an impressive figure? He's short, but that's not his fault, is it? Yeah? Okay. He's a very powerful man, and he's a very powerful man for this reason. What the Parliament Act 1911 says is the traditional system whereby the King used to work out how much money he needed to run the kingdom and go to Parliament and they would agree to it or not, ended in 1911. The reason it ended in 1911 is the Rothschilds have always had an intelligence system. It's how they made their big fortune after Waterloo, for example, you know that story. And they had blackmail material on all the senior figures in 1911. The Prince of Wales being a naughty boy in France and that sort of thing. And he was going to be king shortly because George was old. And the Rothschilds made the government an offer we can't refuse, and that's where we went to. Instead of Parliament generating funds, we went to borrowing money from the Rothschilds at interest. Okay, and so there's no Act of Parliament there to settle that, because the Parliament Act 1911 isn't an Act of Parliament, in actual fact, because it was never agreed by the Lords. But if you were to read the Parliament Act 1911, which is worth you are, what it says is the Speaker will have an absolute authority to decide whether an Act of Parliament is a money bill or an ordinary bill. And if he's decided it's a money bill, and his opinion can't be challenged in the courts, it goes straight to a special committee of the House of Commons called the Ways and Means Committee, and they agree that's how much we're going to tax the people in each year. So the people's opportunity to influence the vote on taxation went in 1911 as a result of blackmail by the Rothschilds. And what we're doing now in a historical context, what you lot are about to do hopefully, is very significant. Because we're going to starve the beast, aren't we? Yeah? Because if you've been overcharged on council tax, do you know about Section 39 discounts? Okay? There's a facility in the Local Government Finance Act 1992 to apply for a discount for any reason. Apply for a discount for any reason. Yes, that's right, yeah. Okay. Yeah. So something you know locally? I don't know. Campaign was done already. So if you were to go to the UK Common website and look for my video called Starve the Beast, it'll explain all of the methods for withholding council tax. And one of the grounds for withholding council tax, Starve the Beast, yeah. One of the reasons for withholding council tax, I would say, is it's not justified because you've got 5 times the amount you're claiming off, we poor devils, in reserve. Never been to the court, never been for a court, so.
Would be a test case.
Be a test case, yeah. It might be me in actual fact, because they're trying to get me for it. So I'll report back on that. So, watch the video, Starve the Beast. It's got the historical context that we just talked about, petitioner right, and it talks about how you can lawfully apply for a discount. One of the issues, in actual fact, the local authority, there's 1988 Act of Parliament. It says the council will have the same legal obligations as the inhabitants. The council will have the same legal obligations as the inhabitants. So, who's bound by who feels they're bound by Magna Carta? Same for the council, yeah? All that sort of thing. So, when you see the article, it explains it. We're holding to the account. Terrorism Act 2000. Yeah, Terrorism Act 2000 says if you knowingly or suspect that you're giving money to a terrorist organisation, like the British government, you're sending money abroad to have Christian sect cut off, and various things like that, it's not on, is it? Yeah? There we go. Yeah. And bomb foreigners left, right and centre. It's not right, is it? Some things just aren't right and they are terrorism. Definitely terrorism is using force to get a physical end. In actual fact, there was a case before the court 2 weeks ago. A chap with a foreign ceremony name was accused of terrorism. He'd gone abroad to fight with one of these groups. His defence basically got some newspapers and brought them into court because this reported in the Times is considered to be true. And the Times was reporting well, the British government is sending money to these terrorists who are killing people. So the case was withdrawn. So there we go. So something like that. Okay. 2 minutes pause. Can you stand up and sit down again? You're right. You used to have a training back. Now stand up and sit down again. I'm not joking. Really back side, go see. We'll go on to the next topic. Right. I'm going to ask you to sit there again.
I'd have to take it down really. Well, I think
Right, this is going to be a short one. Statistically, several people in this room.
Microphone, John, please.
Statistically, several people in this room have been a victim of social services, which means a victim of social workers. I don't want you to tell me who you are, but I want you to listen, because I need some feedback, some information from you privately later. Okay? Now, social workers are trained according to a regime which is set by law. It's unusual. It's one of the few professions where there's an Act of Parliament that covers it. And we've got reason to believe that worldwide the training for social workers is based on the work of a man called Alfred Kinsey, who was a pervert in America in the 1940s and 50s, that got into the system. And it's just like a man called Peter Wrighton, who was a politician in the Thatcher government, and started writing manuals for childcare. Okay, so social workers are trained according to this regime. And one of the elements of their training, I've been assured, is trauma-based mind control. They're shown violent pornography, which is so horrible it permanently changes them. Okay, it's probably snuff movies. During my service, I've had to sit and watch such things, but you know, I'm completely normal. No, obviously. Okay, so this is a serious subject. This is a serious subject. Now, all these bad things go on to people that have their children taken by the state. The motivation, it could be a satanic, a supply of paedophiles for ordinary perverts. It could be it's got satanic connections. Not too sure. But it's very hard to find out about it because everybody in the system is sworn to secrecy. Sorry? Jen was saying that you have a quota. Yes, well, you have.
Cameron said it in his first speech.
Did he?
He said we have to take more children into care.
It's saying Mr. Cameron said there's a quota for taking children into care. Well, that's from the EU.
He said it in his first speech.
Okay, he said it in his first speech. I wasn't aware of that. There are 3 people in this room who, as a result of the Holly Gregg case, are sworn to secrecy. You know who you are? Yeah, you know who you are. And the same will apply to anybody else that's been in front of the so-called children's courts. So we're looking for a way around that. And the way around anything to do with CAFCAS, that sort of thing. Yes, yeah. So we're looking for a way around that. When I say we, a group of researchers from the BCG. I'll tell you what we found out, and I'm going to ask those who've got the inside information to perhaps share it with us. We don't need to know the names. What we want to do is look at the case papers. Because if we find on the case papers that there have been breaches of natural justice, which is common sense and fairness, it means that those proceedings whereby the child was taken are void. Now, void has got an ancient history. It goes back to chapter 61 of Magna Carta. King John agreed, because Magna Carta didn't say anything new. It just restated the common law. And what it says is, if anything's been done unlawfully, it hasn't been done. And that's what void means. Void with no effect. So what we're looking at is to have sight of some of these case papers with a view to checking whether natural justice has been followed. If it hasn't, the thing is void. And then any secrecy goes away. Any secret goes away. And the person who's the victim can share it with other campaigners, and we can do what some Swedish researchers did. So it's Oslo University. About 18 months ago they published a paper. And what it's talking about is persecution strategies. So I'll give you the definition of persecution strategies in a moment. They called it the rhetoric case. I don't know why. So you've got these academics in Sweden, like the Swedish chef talking their funny way. But it's translated into English. The purpose of this study is to make critical examination of 6 official reports on care of young persons act investigations to detect the possible occurrence of persecution strategies in the social welfare service reports. In that case, define the strategy used and examine whether the investigation complies with the legitimate aims of objectivity and impartiality. Okay? Have you ever met a person that's had dealing with social workers that said they were fair? No, you haven't yet. Yeah, I wonder why.
The only people who say that, people who haven't dealt with it.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, yeah, that's right. I never did child protection work. A number of my colleagues did, and the first thing happens is they get taken out of the mainstream police station, they go to work in council offices, they do a special course, we now know about NLP and common purpose, don't we? And then they never talk to their former colleagues again. Okay, that's what happens. Right. In the official reports, 56 different persecution strategies appear, so you need to know what persecution strategy is, don't you?
Yeah.
So here's the definition. I use the definition of the concept of persecution strategy by Edvardsson, it's another Swedish researcher. Patterns of thinking behaviour directed against persons and groups which are the basis of the fundamental values concerning democracy, legal security, objectivity, self-determination, humanity, and not causes physical injury can be considered unacceptable. That's talking Margaret, isn't it? That's no academic talking. In his study of 352 cases of children taken to care, Hollander, that's an American chap, found that investigations consisted of large amounts of material. On the whole, the material was dominated by negative information and by information from various authorities. In nearly all cases, investigations had the character of arguments for taking into care. And the mass of negative facts about the family and the child was large. In the examination of the Daniel case, Janita, that's the Swedish one again, found that some 15 persecution strategies existed. Some strategies more obvious than others. For instance, the scapegoat, strategy the investigator makes the mother appear as the cause of a problem, and even the failure of authority to help with the mother or son. The classic one is, mother rejects the child being taken. Oh, you're mad. Yeah? Okay, hands and Greg then. It was revealed that negative material from the past was often used, and also a negative selection strategy, that the investigator had mainly chosen to use negative information about the mother. We were all shown that client perspective was ignored and assessment seeking competence and authority were. Definitions of strategy found and produced, and their applications in the case will be shown in passages from the reports. The main patterns seen in the investigated actions were power defines reality and influence of persuading the reader. So some good for some of them. Two techniques were found in the material, withholding and fabricating. Withholding and fabricating, which corroborate to make an investigation effective. The strategy we divided into 6 groups depending on their purpose. Now it's me talking again. If you had a policeman that was arrested somebody based on evidence that they'd done a crime, but they had an alibi, they had witnesses say they were miles away at the time, and that policeman ignored the exculpatory evidence, what would you call that? Corrupt. Well, it's perverting the course of justice in actual fact. Yeah, because when a social worker makes a decision, it's just like any petty official, like a policeman. They're clothed with a certain authority for a short time, and that authority is to have investigate matters to see whether they've got authority to do something with it. So when a policeman arrests you, he thinks about it first, hopefully. Have I got authority? And makes the arrest. Social workers, the only argument is they're looking from the perspective of take the child. Take the child. And that's what people are getting upset about, isn't it? Here's the first one. Persuading the reader through language contains 12 strategies investigated you to try to make the reader come to the same conclusion themselves. That's contrary to natural justice, isn't it? That's unfair. Making the client seem pathological. 8 strategies. Peculiar, mentally unstable, aggressive. Ignoring objectivity aspects contains 17 strategies. Ignoring the client's perspective, suppressing information, exaggerating information, fabrication, irrelevant statements. It's dreadful, isn't it? Melanie knows all about this, don't you? Yeah. Exercising power and control. Yeah. The authorities know best. Trust me, I'm from the government. Blind faith, moralising, self-justification, emphasis on social authorities' resources, and exceeding the limits of my competence. What's the motto of common purpose? Lead beyond authority, yes, yeah, there we go. They don't want social work. Feel, think, believe, experience, interpret contains 9 strategies that are influenced by the investigator's subjective interpretations. Another Swedish one. 42 persecution strategies. When they critically examine an investigation and form the basis of taking into care according to LVU. The following main features of behavioural patterns stood out.
Is this them doing research in Britain? All of this is in Britain?
This is in Sweden, but what I'm asking you to do is help me do it here. Because we're pretty sure it's worldwide. So the lady said, is this in Britain? The answer is no, this is in Sweden. Okay? So what we're aiming to do is to do it here. And the problem we have is that if I was to go into the local social service and says, I'm a private investigator and I'm not 10 cents of case papers, what would they say? Go forth and multiply, wouldn't they? The authority knows best. Blacking the names of parents, making children parents inferior in need of care, pushing through and sticking to decisions that have been made, disregarding laws and regulations. Now this is the method that these ladies use, so it's a good question. We come to the critical part. This is a method used by the investigators, and this is the lady who wrote the paper, the Swedish academic. I've critically examined 6 official reports, including appendices concerning the applications for care, according to their Act of Parliament covering it, declarations in the District Court of Appeal, considerations concerning regulations of the right areas, advice request the custody should be discontinued. I've concentrated examining investigation of social workers at the services. So, if there's anyone in the room that's been a victim of social services, and you've got any of the papers, and you're prepared to send them, even anonymously, to BCG with all the names and addresses crossed out, we don't need to know the names, that would be a big help. Okay? Sorry? British Constitution Group, yeah. Okay. So as I say, I don't need to know who it is, it's anonymous, but if it's not you, if you could approach other people and ask, this is a major work. Because what we're doing, we're replicating the Swedish academics' work here to make sure. Okay? And I won't make promises by my power, but if I were able to find out about one of these, then we've got grounds for a test case, because it all resolves on test cases. We're an adversarial legal system, which requires some poor devil or grave devil to put his head above the parapet and test it. Gentleman at the back, yeah.
What do you hope to do?
Well, it's like anything else. If we get one test case that all these persecution strategies, ignoring evidence and that sort of thing, avoids that proceedings, the person concerned gets their child back. They have a huge claim under Section 92 of the Local Government Act, because it's local authority doing this, and child stealing by the state stops tomorrow.
Right, so how do I get my personal papers to you?
Well, anonymously is the answer, so don't tell me. If you go online and find the website for the BCG or UK Column, a plain brown envelope will suffice. And then watch this space, and as I say, what we're looking for is a test case. Now, Melanie, are you guys coming? Okay, Melanie Shaw, hero of our time. This has happened to her. Can I ask you a few questions, Melanie? Just come up.
It's going on all over the country.
There we are. It's going on all over the country. What can I say? Give me 5 minutes.
Now, what do I start with? Excuse my language. Nottingham. There's a satanic ring that was operating in Nottingham. It was listed under the Jet report to the Broxton files in 1986, and a 25-year official gagging order was put onto it. There was children buried, murdered. There was made to eat human fetuses in the basements of Bulletin House, the historical building. All social workers, children, police officers working on that case. It's all declassified. You can Google research it. The Jet report to the Broxton files. Anybody spoke about it their entire career, livelihoods and families will be destroyed, and that went as far as Parliament Street and Council of Nottingham. I was in Beechwood, and what happened there, everybody knew about it. All the children, the staff, the families, all the children's homes, and it was a small, powerful group of men who I believe to be Freemasons. Right, devil worshipping. It went off in Cleveland, and it was off all over the country. And I don't give a shit. I'm not going to keep my gob shut, right? But what bothers me is, what's Chris Eyre doing, the Chief Constable? He was working with Matt Tapp, who I was took out to see at the headquarters. Matt Tapp, he shut down the Jersey investigation into Horton and There's Matt Tapp Associates, the fifth one down is the Matt Tapp files. He worked on the Madeleine McCann case, the Ian Huntley case. They shut down the facts of what's going on. And we've got a national child abuse inquiry that's just not happening. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And in paedophilia, child porn, right, where you're witnessing a child being raped. This is our fucking country. The people of our country own this country, not a select few sick bastards, to be fair, right? And every single pornographic image is a fucking crime scene. And it's a child being violated. And at the end of the day, how can there be that man from Cambridge, that doctor with 175,000 porn images, Miles Bradbury, who abused 22 children? They knew he was on a list from America, and our government have got over 2,000 names again, and they've made one arrest. They don't care because they're fucking involved in it. My opinion is they don't know what to do. We all know it's going off. What I say I do, I would build fucking prisons all over the place, and every child in this country feel like, I'm not frightened. I'll say you've done that to me. I don't give a fuck if you're my parent. But it's been legalised by Jack Straw. What can we do? I wrote to all the ministers while I was in prison, not every single minister, equalities, justice minister. I sent all them letters off. Not one of them's responded to me.
Because his brother's a nonce.
Pardon?
Because his brother is a nonce.
Not everybody is a paedophile.
No, Jack Straw.
Oh yeah, he's a Nottingham man, he got nicked and convicted, but not everybody can be a paedophile. I'm not a fucking paedophile. Right? But everybody, I could think of Harriet Holman, and I'll say this direct to you now, you owe the British public an apology. Right? Because you signed off documents for Pi, for liberty, to try and lower the age of consent to 4. Right? And try to push a 100-page document through Parliament. And you won't fucking apologise. And that is disgusting. But we know that. Do you know what I mean? We know that. Kenneth Clark. You fuck up. Damien's dad had you. Right? You felt Ben Fella's penis, allegedly. I don't give a fuck. It's only him that said it. He's been persecuted. You stole my son. What have I got to fucking lose? Absolutely nothing. Does anybody else agree with me that the fucking British government for doing fuck all is disgusting?
Yeah. Leslie,
you write to me, and I'm looking forward to coming to London to see you, because you've been alright with me, right? But I'm now going to take one of you on, one at a fucking time, pick you off, and you either support me or I'll slag you off. And if you don't do your job, Simon Danchuk's having a breakdown now, Tom Watson's disappeared off the scene, any of you that don't fucking actually do your job as a public paid official, then you're just fucking going to be like Cliff Richard, you won't be able to go to Wimbledon and fucking I'll get you on like tennis, to be fair. You know what I mean? And you won't be able to walk down the street because I'm going to come and live next door in the same village as each and every one of you.
Go on,
because I'm fucking homeless now. I can't go back to Nottingham, so I'll hotel and fucking bed sit or tent sit on your fucking front garden. Watch this space, you cunts.
I can't follow that. Just to get in mind, yeah?
Can I say something?
Do you want to come to the front, use the microphone? Yeah. I've got a walking mic, there we are.
I've been through 5 Supreme Court cases. My kid was adopted. Fortunately, he had a fairly good background because me and my missus fought well against it. But she told me something that I didn't believe 30, 40 years ago, and I soon learned. When she was a kid, I'm not going to give any names, when she was a kid, she used to sit at the top of the stairs and listen to dinner parties that her parents used to give. And they would invite doctors, dentists, judges, people from the council, everybody. And you'd have 20 people having a really nice meal, and they would talk in anecdotal terms about a type of family with no name ever being given until everybody in the room realised what family they were talking about. Then they made the strategy, but nobody could get done for it because there was no name ever given. That strategy was working definitely 50 years ago that I know it was, and even worse with my kids, they came out of it very lucky. They were only evicted on the street in their pyjamas. But it is very rife, it is coming out of the woodwork, and we've got to do something about it. I'll finish there with just one anecdote, which I learned in the Supreme Court, in the family division, is the difference between a Rottweiler and a social worker is a Rottweiler gives your kids back.
Right, thank you, Matt. Just to clarify. Oh, yes.
Just one question. It's a huge, it's not, there's more people in this country than there is the fucking pedos that, sorry for swearing for doing it, but it's like a matrix triangle, paedophile triangle connected all the way nationally around this country. It's a small minority and they've got the jobs and they're in the Masonic Lodge and they're allowed to do what the hell they want. Do you know what I mean? And the amount of people they are, if we take them on, the communities know who they are, the public know who they are, their employees and the colleagues know who they are. And if everybody stands up and says the name, what are they going to do to us all? Wipe out the country? Do a 9/11? What the fuck are they going to do?
They are scared.
They're the minority, the fucking sick minority.
They're scared of us.
They're in the power that they're giving certain people it's privilege to rape children, and I've had enough of it.
You're not alone. We're all over.
And it's not just in care, it's happening to either. So it's not just institutional child abuse, it's child abuse as general. If we've got a law of 16, because we're not the Vatican or we're not Africa, then we ought to have a police force that deals with it, to be fair, and judges, not ones that are fucking paedophiles and masons. That's it.
Okay, I'm still serving colleagues who've got a problem. And they've got a problem, it's we can see, can't we? Hand on my heart, nobody did anything that serious in front of me as a policeman. Doesn't mean they didn't do it behind me, but they didn't do it in front of me, okay? Now, I'm just going to ask Brian to step forward. Can we just open one of these PowerPoints? I'm just going to do a quick one about a problem the police have got. Thank you, Melanie. There we are. Right? You remember I said you can do what you like until somebody grabs you by the collar or the throat and says justify your actions. Okay? Can you imagine doing that to a policeman? Who's heard of this? The Criminal Justice and Courts Act 2015.
Yeah.
Yeah, a few people, yeah. Is it Mike West at the back? That's all, I bet he's heard of it. Yeah, there he is, yeah. Okay, you want to see what this is, don't you? Corrupt and other, this is Act of Parliament that came into effect in February this year. Corrupt and other improper exercise of police powers and privileges. A police constable listed in section 3 commits an offence if he or she exercises the powers and privileges of the constable improperly. And a police constable is guilty of an offence on this section, who is guilty, on indictment, 14 years in prison. Okay? So that's quite tough, isn't it? The reason this measure, this statutory measure, is Act of Parliament is that common law crime and misconduct in office is difficult to prove. And the reason is, one of the elements is, the crime is so serious that the public will be outraged. So how do you determine a crime is so serious that the public will be outraged? Tricky. So for some reason, this was pushed through this year. When the new Act of Parliament comes out, there's a couple of guidelines as to what it means. The first is Hansard, because if you read Hansard, when this was presented to Parliament, an explanation would have given. I've done that, it doesn't say much. This was put through by the Home Office. Then if you were to look at the website, legislation.gov.uk, and find this Act of Parliament, there'd be explanatory notes, and there's an explanatory note, it doesn't say much. And then you find a document called the impact statement, and again I'll put this on the VCU website. The impact statement that this says is intended to make it easier to obtain convictions of policemen for misconduct in office, because you don't have to prove the public are outraged. It applies the reasonable person test. Okay, we'll talk about that. A reasonable person would expect the ground to be exercised from the person. Okay? So the reason, somebody asks what's a reasonable person? Okay, it's a legal term, and the test is the man. Sorry? Yeah, it's the man on the Clapham omnibus is the phrase. It's the average man. Yeah. So that's the test. So what you've got is a new measure that says to constables, if you don't do your job right, such that the average person would object, then you've got a problem. You can go to prison for 14 years. And that's new. That's new. So how can we make use of this? Yeah? Well, you've got to articulate it, haven't you? Now, I spoke to 10 serving policemen in the last fortnight, and none of them knew about it. None of them knew about it. So what I suggest you do is you email your local police station and say, have you heard of this and what are you going to do about it? Is anyone in this room present when the town hall was occupied? Yeah? I recognise a few faces. Yeah? Yeah, there's Gary in the back. The constables that came into the room, it predates this, doesn't it? It's before February, isn't it? If you said to the constables, but you've got a duty to do the right thing, did you know about Magna Carta? And they said no. 14 years imprisonment, dear, isn't it? See the difference?
What about the Tom Crawford on the policeman acting, police picture from his own house?
Exactly. So the question is, what about Tom Crawford? Well, it's a work in progress, isn't it, Brian? There's a couple of variations on what happened. The latest, I understand, is that Tom was arrested, charged, and he's going to court on the 31st of July. Is that the latest you've heard? Yeah. Brian is saying the same thing. So Brian, because it's after the 2nd of February this year, every 100 constable was photographed, and they're all going to have to justify their actions, aren't they? They're all going to have to justify their actions. There would have been a briefing beforehand. Before any large pre-planned operation, there has to be a briefing of policemen. Yeah.
Did the 151 section officer sign off?
The question is, did the 151? I was going to come to that because we've got a new tool, haven't we?
Yeah.
Anyone got faith in the police complaints procedure? No? Okay. Right. Okay. So let's put together what we've learned today. We've learned about section 92, said where there's been maladministration by a council official or a person employed by a police force paid for by the council, and any person suffered a detriment, the council can give them some money or make some other retribution, can't they? So if Tom were to complain that he's been the victim of maladministration by constables in the police force paid for by Nottingham and wanted some dosh, then the 151 officer would have an obligation to investigate it, wouldn't he? And report it to councillors, and it cuts out the police complaints procedures. Okay, which we've got no faith in. Yeah? Okay? Anybody think that's a good idea? Yeah? Yeah, in around the floor. Yeah. Okay. The question is, what about Harriet Harman retrospectively to the age of consent? The individual policeman would say, have you got first-hand knowledge? And of course you'd say, well, it's been reported in the press, wouldn't you? Okay? So a policeman can arrest somebody by mistake. Okay? It's otherwise known on reasonable suspicion. Okay? And it goes like this. There was a case it's in the 1880s. So there's a horse-drawn tram in London somewhere. And gentlemen are sitting on either side, and a pickpocket comes in, and he puts his hand in the man's pocket, and another man sees it going on, being a good citizen, and makes a citizen's arrest. Okay, a constable's called, and the constable then checks what's in the pocket, and it was empty. Because it was empty, the offence was impossibly committed. So the poor devil who made the citizen's arrest had acted unlawfully. Okay, if he'd been a constable's got a power to arrest by mistake. So okay. So I would say, if you said that to a random constable, go and arrest Harry Harman, at the very least, he should make a crime report, and at the very least, he should be fed into the system, and something local to Westminster should go around. Now, don't say that will happen. We know in the Lyndon Lewis case, you report things and it just doesn't happen, does it? But what we've got a new tool. Any new statute that comes out has got to be tested, because at the end of the day, it's only the courts who decide what the new statute means. We've got a new tool. I've got an article I'm writing about it again on the BCG website, so have a look at it, and then if you've got some ideas, go on the forums and suggest them. Because you may not wish to do something about it, other people might be. Okay, so that's section 46 of the Criminal Justice and Courts Act 2015. You didn't know that, did you? Okay, one more topic. Okay, another 15 minutes. Brian, if you wouldn't mind. I'm not a lawyer and I'm not an accountant, but I've got a good memory. Okay, so I can remember stuff when I've read it. So I'm going to give you the opportunity to have a look at this, see what you think. Capitalisation and securitisation of loans. Okay. Now, when you took out a loan, most of us would have done, or a mortgage, did they tell you that they were generating money out of thin air? No, they didn't. And it wasn't until the officials from the Bank of England that actually confessed to this about 9 months ago that you could be absolutely sure, could you? We were absolutely sure now. Now, Tina and I took a trip over to Northern Ireland a couple of weeks ago. It was a fact-finding tour, and the reason it was a fact-finding tour, there was an important case in front of the Northern Ireland courts, and it's the civil courts. Okay? And decisions of the Northern Ireland civil courts are persuasive but not binding on the mainland. so long as they cover the same material, the same legislation. There's the Northern Ireland Finance Act and there's the Mainland Finance Act, for example. So, capitalisation. Do you want to know what capitalisation is? About 18 months ago, you know I was going to tell you, about 18 months ago, a case called Macready and Ray was dealt with by the Northern Ireland courts. And it was to do with somebody complaining that they'd taken out a mortgage, penalty charges had been added to the lump sum, and they'd been paying interest on these penalty charges for years. And their contract, when they took it out, didn't say that. It said, here's the amount you borrowed, you've got to pay that back, and here are the charges. And the mortgage company had been adding one to the other, and it dramatically increased the repayments to the point where the board level couldn't pay and they were foreclosed on, and that's why before the courts. And the Northern Ireland Court says, because that's not in your contract, it's unlawful. It's fraud, isn't it? Okay? So if you were to look at your mortgage, put a freedom of information subject access request about your mortgage. After 48 days you get the kind of papers, and if you find that the initial figure has been added to, you've got a claim, I would argue. Not a lawyer, not an accountant, but there's every chance you have a claim, and that's called capitalisation, and that's because it's breach of contract. Okay, so that's probably going nicely. And again, a paper an article we published in the BCG website about it, so you can check your own stuff, because there's too many out there for me to do. Now the second one is securitisation of loans. So what's securitisation? A young man in Northern Ireland started off with a mortgage payment of 296, and over 2 years it was raised to 1,050. And the reason it was raised to 1,050 is because of capitalisation. He missed a couple of months' payments, and he suddenly found he had lots of £150 solicitors' fees and lots of £120 solicitors' fees and lots of penalty clauses added on. And it multiplied, it became compound interest, and suddenly his repayments were increased by sort of more than 3 times. And he couldn't pay anymore, and then he decided to fight it. So the capitalisation had already been settled, because remember I said Macready and Ray settled that one. His one is before the courts as we speak, and I was lucky enough to be his Mackenzie friend in the hearing. And what happened was, he's made multiple freedom of information requests to the Santander Bank. And basically they've sent in everything there is to find, he thinks. And foolishly, they've sent in a document which shows that at one point, some 3 years after he took out a mortgage, it was paid off and went to zero. And the common law rule is that when a debt is paid, it's gone. And you haven't got a contract with anybody else that may have bought the debt or whatever, it's gone. That's the rule. And what happens is, apparently, it's based on lots of research from some other people, Mike Grant and Claire principally, is that every 3 months or so, a person who sells mortgages bundles them up and sells them to an institution called an SPV, a special purpose vehicle. And as SPV is a ploy. It takes on the mortgage, but it hides itself. The original seller of the mortgage continues to send you the bill, doesn't it? So Halifax, for example, sells it to an SPV, but Halifax can come back at you making the claims. And that's a fraud because the debt is paid, isn't it? Yeah. Okay? Yeah, it's paid and it's gone. Okay? But they keep coming at you, and you either pay an endowment or a repayment. And why is it called a repayment? When you take out the loan, you create a promissory note under the Bills of Exchange Act. In this particular case, 200,000. Okay? Your advance credit for 200,000, the two match, don't they? So that's what happened that's what happened when you first take it out. And then when you start making payments, there are repayments because you're paying it twice. You paid it with a promissory note, and you're paying it again with more money, aren't you? And the penalty charges typically make it on average up to 3 times. You pay three times what you actually borrowed. Okay? So as far as this particular case is before the court at the moment, that fraud was exposed. Now, as a result of the Ray case, and I think I'll put the whole text on the BCG website so people can read it, it's easy to find. As a result of the Ray case, the courts no longer accept statements from solicitors in these cases. Because up to that point, you're a mortgage company and you employ a solicitor, and he'd write a statement full of hearsay. It would say, I've read their records and I find there's no irregularities and this is how much they owe. Because of the Ray case, because of the fraud in that one, the court insisted that they have true accounting. So in theory, it's the managing director of the bank is responsible, the Bank of the Building Society is responsible, and the official who runs the computer system knows how it works is responsible for giving a statement, not a solicitor that guesses. So we had a delightful scene in the High Court in Belfast a couple of Fridays ago, wasn't it? where Mr. Justice Deeney, a proper Irishman, broad Irishman, is on the bench, and civil courts can send people to prison. Not people know that, but they can send people to prison, and they can send them to prison for contempt of court. And it's a contempt of court to tell lies to start a case. Okay, so there came a point in time because this gentleman, the young man, had all the documents. He was able to demonstrate that the managing director of Santander UK had lied, and so every official and solicitor that touched the case, about half a dozen of them. So he made an application for committal to prison of the head of Santander and all the lawyers. And there came a point in time when Mr. Justice Deeney turned to the lawyer and said, "This man wants to send you to prison. What have you got anything to say?" And the barrister was visibly trembling. And there was a shocked silence throughout the room because there was about 20 other barristers from other cases listening. That's right. And unfortunately, Mr. Deeney had a sense of humour, and he turned to the young man and said, "But of course you do know that 1,000 years of natural justice mean that a man may answer his accuser, I'll give you a month to sort it out." And the barrister visibly caught it. So that's where we are at the moment. It's really a fire under the legal system. And it's not just mortgage, it's loans and credit cards, that sort of thing. So again, what's this space? I won't make promises on my power, but 14th of September is back before the court.
So
Yeah.
are you saying that the guy knew that the guy was breaking the law and said, "I'll give you a month to get this out"?
He was saying, you've been accused of something, natural justice says that you're allowed to answer it, not immediately on the spot, you can go away and think about it.
But unless you have an answer, you will go to prison.
Well, yes, that's right, yes, yeah. So that's why there's a shocked silence amongst the 20-odd barristers in the room. It'd be worse than the policeman being sent to prison, wouldn't it? Yes, yeah.
It's business that they're broadcasting on the radio and the news generally and get messages on your mobile phone about PPI.
PPI is selling, but it's going to be the next scandal, couldn't it? So they're saying, what about PPI? Well, the next scandal, excessively bigger, huge amounts of money, wouldn't it?
But is it a smoke screen? They're saying, we realise we made a mistake and we're ready to pay it back.
Serial mistakes by the financial LIBOR is one, interest rates, or foreign exchange when you get money from abroad. Not settled yet, and because it's the aim of people like Brian and our group to research it and give people the tools. Can't do it themselves, but give people the tools. And you need one case to succeed, and then it's like a house of cards.
Yeah.
Okay? So don't hold your breath, but we've got you money for being cheated on council tax, money for being cheated on loans, get your children back. What more could you ask for? Okay, gentlemen there, can we have a walking microphone? It's a lady, very fine.
Right, apologies, all right.
I've got one last
Can
one.
I just clarify something? You said the special purpose vehicle buying up mortgages. So the mortgage seller will bundle together. Is that what they do all the time?
So the answer is yes. One of the insights that a man called Mike Grant Sinclair had is that there's an act of parliament that says when a mortgage changes hands, it's got to be recorded as company house. Okay? Now I can't remember the format. I'm picturing it. Section 260 of the Consumer Credit Act. So there's an act of parliament that says that's got to be recorded company house. So what Mike Grant Sinclair has done, he discovered that his mortgage had been sold by writing to company's house. We'll give you instructions about how to do it. Write to company's house, I want to see the record of what happened to my mortgage. And in his case, what's happened is he's going for a private prosecution. Because the man in charge, I think it was Advantage Mortgage Sellers, is on the form selling it, and that's recorded at company's house. And then when Mike falls behind, due to an industrial injury, he was a lorry driver and he got squashed by a lorry, then the same person is claiming that I still own the mortgage, I'm taking you to the court, he's an informant for the court. So he's in play for being locked up in contempt, because he isn't.
The question that you have to ask company's house is, I want to see evidence of this mortgage, blah blah, Santander.
I would say if you know who issued the mortgage, and you know the dates roughly.
I know exactly.
Okay, and you want the transactions when it was sold.
Transactions.
Okay, do you speak to me afterwards? Okay. Because what the insight Mike Grant and Mr. Sinclair has had is it's recorded at company's house. You've got a right to see it. Okay, it's just a question of identifying your one in a big bunch.
They got a bit snifty, they got a bit clever, didn't they? They renamed mortgages as one of the things, the interest-only mortgage, where and they called it an investment loan.
Oh, well, there we are. Well,
security you get.
Just say the name. Yeah.
And I just wondered that with the investment-linked loan, presumably it's meant to have an investment that pays it off. So the person goes and says, I want some money, and the bank say, okay, have you got any investments that can mature to pay off this loan? And presumably the person says yes, and they go, there you go. You just pay us £100 a month for the 15 years of mortgage. No,
Yeah, I'll explain that. The lady's saying that she had a loan and they moved the goalposts. They had a, well, that's the purpose.
No, they didn't.
Okay.
It's changing the name of it.
Oh, okay.
I was wondering if, when they changed it from mortgage to investment-linked loan, does that mean it's out of...
I don't know, I'm not an accountant, is the answer. Okay, but the insight is, the purpose of the SPV is, when you take out a mortgage 25 years, isn't it? The SPV isn't bound by that 25-year contract. Okay, so typically, the majority of mortgages fail within 5 years because they use this mechanism of penalty charges added onto the principal, and you've got the option, you can't pay it, so you've got the option, give up, remortgage, or fight. And as I say, this one man in Norway is fighting, and it's in all our interest. Okay, any more questions?
Is there a time limit on something being repossessed and they want to...
Well, fraud is a common law offence and also statutory. So I'd like to think, because it's common law, it will be unlimited, because the question was asked earlier, how far can you go back? But because there's a Fraud Act 2006, it might be only 6 years, so I don't know the answer to that one. But there's a thing called the Frustrated Contracts Act 1943. I keep coming up with obscure acts of parliament somehow. Okay? Frustrated Contracts Act 1943. So it's 1943 and the war's on. And British investors have got rubber plantations in Malaya. And unfortunately, there's a lot of sort of Japanese soldiers with buck teeth and bayonets occupying them. So the contract can't I'm not noting my bit of greatness. The contract can't be fulfilled, so it's a frustrated contract. So the common law rule is where a contract can't be complied with, the parties should be set back at the beginning they were when it started. Okay, less reasonable expenses. So it's put on a statutory basis in 1943, the Frustrated Contracts Act. So I would say the moment you have a contract to take out a mortgage, they arbitrarily sell it to somebody else, I would say that's the point where you should be put back to. In my opinion, Tom Crawford's got a case with that as well. Because for those that know the details of the Tom Crawford case, he takes out an endowment, a few years in it's sold, doesn't know about it until he wants money for kitchen improvements. And they say, oh, by the way, did you know we moved the goalposts? We can't go back because we can't find the papers. And when they say can't find the papers, it means they've sold them to somebody, doesn't it? Yeah. Okay, any more questions? Right, you had enough of me? Right, okay, thank you very much. We're having a break. Yeah. We'll have a break for 10 minutes, shall we? And then try. 10 minutes.